G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of the Engine Shed. Today I thought I'd talk about Kadee couplings. This is a pretty common modification that a lot of you watching will probably have been thinking about or have done, especially if you're a OO gauge model such as myself. You tend to find that the tension lock couplers that come standard with a lot of the coaching stock and rolling stock that you buy just doesn't cut the mustard sometimes, and unfortunately causes more problems than it fixes, particularly with derailments. Now in my situation, the conversion was unfortunately forced. I really was sort of hesitant. Of course Kadees are fairly expensive, but I had to bite the bullet and make the swap because I was having trouble with my coaching stock and rolling stock derailing, not because of the track geometry on the layout, but as you can see over here, I've got a 3.5 level helix. It's a 300 millimeter rise. So there's a 300 millimeter top to bottom distance from the top layer to the bottom layer, which goes underneath the fiddle yard. Now I'll give you guys a proper layout tour at a later date, but at the moment the layout's just an absolute mess, so I'm not going to even go there just yet. But yeah, so I was really forced to upgrade and make the change to Kadees just to even achieve smooth and reliable running on the layout. I was sort of aware that that was going to be the case when I included the helix to the design, but ever since I've made the modification, I've been doing some testing, and so far the results are really good. A lot of other people on YouTube have made these conversions, and they swear by the results, so hopefully I get the same level of results, and I thought I'd share my experience with you to date so far. So primarily one of the first pieces of conversion that I wanted to do was the HST. Anybody that owns a Hornby HST knows how annoying and painful it can be, simply because of the fact that the Mark III coaches don't come with NEM pockets. They have those awful, nasty, bloody, large, wide connectors which have been in existence since Lima days. So I'll just get a Mark III coach and show you guys. Oh, we get a buffet coach. And then the other problem comes with uncoupling tension lock couplers. You can cause a bit of damage if you're not careful when you uncouple these things. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. I've just got a buffet coach here on hand. But you can see it comes with that nasty wide piece of tension lock coupling, and you can see how big the actual hook in the tension lock coupler is. And as it's going down a helix, what will happen is it will lift and bend, and then it actually rides up on top of another coach, and that causes all problems. And in fact, I've actually had it so much so that the wheels aren't even in contact with the track. So it was clearly a problem. I had to fix it. And what I've done is I've picked up 3 different types of Kadees. So for the coaching stock, the Mark IIIs, I used a solution that was championed by Graham Fulston and a few other guys on YouTube, but if you ever want to check out how it's done, Graham Fulston from Lakeside does an awesome video about how to convert Mark IIIs to Kadees, and I've adopted his method similarly for my own purposes. But here is a Mark III TGS. Okay. Now straight away, look how much lower profile the coupling is. And by the way, for you interested, it's a Kadee number 5. So the Kadee number 5 comes with a gearbox and a gearbox housing that you can glue to the actual bogie. So that's what I use for the Mark IIIs. When it comes to locomotives, I use number 18s. I found those to be a really nice sort of length and low profile enough to achieve really good quality running. Good example is, of course, well, sorry guys, a good example, I'll just get the Bachmann A2 over here. I'll have to apologise for the poor camera, or for the poor video work, but I'm trying to handle about 3 things here. So this is a Bachmann A2, not to be confused with an A1, and I fitted a number 18 on the back. Okay. So you can see how much more low profile that is in comparison to, say, a tension lock coupling, which comes with a Bachmann A1, such as this. Okay, it's much better straight away. You get a much cleaner coupling, and it's a much better coupling than a tension lock, because it's actually joining together, well, joining together like that, and creating a much better and much more secure connection, as opposed to a tension lock that sort of just flimsily holds things in place and then pray to God it stays together. Okay. So overall, test especially with the Bachmann Mark locomotors and steam locomotors are really good with KDs. I've hauled a couple of Mark 1 rakes around the layout so far, and a lot of problems have been fixed immediately just with this conversion. But for any of you who have had this experience already, you'd already be aware that ready to run rolling stock and coaching stock and OO gauge is actually a pain in the ass to fit KDs to. And the reason for that is that the NEM pockets, or the little sockets that you plug the NEM couplers into, and you insert those little legs into the pocket like that, and that's your NEM pocket. Those aren't actually at the same height. There's no standard height across ready to run models in OO gauge for those particular couplings, and that causes more problems than it fixes. Unfortunately, a lot of manufacturers prefer to keep everything in-house, and they don't really care about anybody else so long as they make money, which is a shame. A lot of American manufacturers, of course, use or already have integrated knuckle couplers or KD couplers in them, so they don't have that problem. But when it comes to coaching stock, I've had to use number 20s. KD number 20s, especially with Mark 2s. If you ever have Bachmann Mark 2s, and I'll try and bring some up in front of camera, if I can get one up in front of camera. What you'll notice with Bachmann Mark 2s is just how far back the actual coupling is. Okay. Whoa. I'll just put this out of the way. I've got a couple of Mark 2s on the track at the moment. Now, the coupling in between that you can see in camera now actually uses a proprietary coupling that Bachmann themselves manufacture, and they include in all their Mark 2 coaching packs. And this, of course, is the little pipe connector. It's got little NEM sprockets on it, and you just connect those up and it gets a nice consistent coupling across the board. So I use that one for a consist. I don't normally pull coaches apart unless I actually have to. But on the end of the consist where the locomotive attaches, I use KDs, and you can't even see the KD in the camera. But if I had a quick show you, if I show you real quick, there it is. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but right there where my fingernail is, that is where the NEM socket is. That's how far back into the coach these things are. So if you're using a NEM pocket or a NEM KD, a number 18, a number 19 is not going to cut it. You really need to use a number 20, and then hope you've got enough clearance between the end of the locomotive and the end of the coach that's not going to cause any problems around tight radiuses. Now on my layout on the helix, the inner radius on the helix is the tightest radius I have on the layout, which is a 3rd radius piece of Hornby track. And I'll also go into a video of how I made the helix and sort of try and help you guys out if you're ever having problems with yours. But yeah, the major problem was the HST, so that was the first problem I decided to tackle. But generally speaking, I've found that number 18s and number 20s work really well for locomotives and rolling stock. Everything's different, obviously. You will have to modify and bend your KDs a little bit just to get the proportions the right height, which, speaking of, if you do get KDs, it is absolutely imperative that you pick one of these up. Now, this is a height gauge, and I'll get the part number for you, but I believe part number is number 206. So it's an insulated multi-purpose coupling height gauge. Now, basically the rule of thumb is you want to, and you can see it on the diagram here actually, you want to ensure that your KD coupling on the coach is as close to center with the KD coupling on the height gauge, right? And the little spring-loaded piece of metal that you see on the coupling should just be about level with the railhead, and maybe a little bit more. So if you're using any sort of coaching stock, locomotives, whatever it may be, it's always important, because if the coach does pitch and yarn at a different height, that way it ensures that the Kadee will always remain coupled and you won't have any coaching stock detached from your train. So very important that you get the number 206 if you're going to get Kadee couplers. It saved me a lot of headaches as far as figuring out the height of the Kadee couplers. If you do have to bend it a little bit, you just apply a little bit of heat or a little bit of muscle. Obviously don't try and snap it, that's not what you want. But very important that you get number 206 if you get Kadees. So when it comes to the HST, I've already covered the coach, but the HST power units, the class 43 that Hornby makes, is yeah, it's a pain in the ass, all right? It's an absolute utter pain in the ass. So if you get a HST, this is what it looks like. That's what it looks like in profile. This is the power unit, so it's pretty heavy. But generally speaking, what you'll get with this is, you can see here, this rear bogie has this extruded piece of plastic out, and that is actually the NEM socket. It's all the way down near level with the railhead. So that's bloody useless to all of us. I don't know why Hornby did that. I don't know why they made that decision. If they really did everyone a favour, they could have retooled the Mark IIIs along with the 43s so that at least the NEM pockets were the same height, but that didn't happen. I digress anyway. So what I had to do, I sourced some spare NEM pockets for some coaching stock. If you've got Bachmann HTAs, HHAs, or anything like that, usually you can get these NEM pockets included with spares, because the Bachmann coal wagons all use proprietary couplers as well. So I fished around and got all these out of the boxes, and what I had to do is just glue it onto the existing NEM prop. Okay, well, it's bloody heavy, this thing, but come on, focus, focus, focus. Okay, no, hopefully you can see that, guys. But the existing prop on here, I'll use my little screwdriver to help. You can see this here. That's the existing NEM socket there where the screwdriver head is now. All I did was just glue that on top, and that gets the NEM at the right height according to the 206 height gauge, and it's caused problems. Well, it doesn't cause any problems, so that's good. That's what you want. I will make note here, this little piece of metal pipe that you see on the end of the Kadee, you might need to trim it just so it's just above level with the railhead. Otherwise it catches on any point work and it causes derailments. So just be very careful about that. But otherwise, it's all good to go. That's the easiest way I've found to do it with the HSTs. Unfortunately, it does mean you have to butcher your HST a bit. Keen-eyed among you would notice that those little air tanks that normally sit right about where I'm holding them now had to be removed. It's one of those trade-offs you have to make. For me, it was a forced choice. I didn't really get the option of cosmetics over functionality. But I will look into reattaching this in some way, somehow, and I'll show you how I do that in another video. But generally speaking, my findings is this is the best way to attach a Kadee coupler to a HST. Get yourself a little spare NEM socket and then use a number 18 or a number 20, depending on how closely coupled you want to have the coaches to the actual HST power unit, and you'll have a far better time of using one of these on a layout than you will normally. So that's the power unit. The dummy unit is of course pretty much exactly the same, as you can see there. And the Mark III, all you need to do with the Mark III, the existing Mark IIIs, wrong coach, where is it, the TGS? Okay, now, I'll just move the HST out of the way. The Mark III does require a bit of butchering. I'll try and pull off the bogie. So, this is what the modified bogie looks like. And as I said, I think I said anyway, you can check out a video by Graham Fulston from Lakeside. He does an awesome tutorial of how this is done. But when you do this modification, you use the gearbox included with the number 5 Kadees, it matches up just well enough with the modification that I made on the HST that it causes fantastic running. And of course it lines up really nicely with the 206. it's always important that you try and line things up with the 206, because especially if you're using things like Mark 1s, Mark 2s, you're obviously going to have different locomotives hauling that rolling stock, so you want to make sure that it's at the correct height. Something like a Mark 3 consist, you can probably get away with more. Obviously I had to trim this right down. I just did that purely to avoid any chance of derailing on points or catching on anything. Okay, so hopefully this video has helped you guys out. If you do have any questions, leave me a comment or message me. I'll try and help you out, but it's pretty basic. As I said, you can check out tutorials of how this is done. I would love to do a tutorial for you guys, but unfortunately time doesn't permit. But to compare, that's the Mark III bogie out of the box. Okay, you can see there's the nasty thing. Basically all you need to do is pull this out, take this little clip off, focus, I don't know if you can make it out. I'm really sorry about the quality, guys. As I said, this isn't my normal camera. I had to use my phone, but there we go. You can see the nipple on the flange of this piece of plastic here. All you need to do is trim that down so it's bare level. So you just get a piece, some snips, use a craft knife and a needle file it right down to level, and then you attach the gearbox onto the flat piece of plastic that you've created, glue it down, leave it overnight. And I'd say the gap between the end of the gearbox and the edge of the bogie, by the way, is probably about 5 mil. So play around with that, just see how you go. And yeah, so far I can happily report that running has dramatically improved with the Kadee modification. I encourage a lot of you to give it a go at the very least, see how you go. For me, it's been a bloody lifesaver. And I hope you guys have the same level of success. As I said, you can more than happily message me and I'll try and help you out if I can, provided I get the time to read your messages. But guys, for now, that's all I have for you today. Until next time, I'll say goodbye. What's coming up from the channel? Well, at the moment it's a bit quiet. I am fairly busy, but when and where I can, I'll try and upload some videos for you guys to watch, especially do a layout tour. Some people are probably already going to get excited by the look of the helix and everything else like that, but I've already hit 17 minutes on the video, so I better wrap this up. Okay, so until next time, happy model railroading. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.